how would this be able to hopefully down the line change the trend from one farm closing every day to maybe one popping up, a new one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of factors there. I think that we have to. I mean, we're obviously working with communes on trying to get them to buy more food locally, and you know, there's a bit of a wake up in terms of. I mean, their drivers are around carbon and emissions of imported stuff, imported produce. Whereas I think if you look at it from an economic point of view, and if you take a commune and you say, if they're spending, so how traditional economics works for a commune is, rather than me spending 100 kroners on this produce, I'll spend 95 kroners and I'll buy it from over there. So I've saved 5 kroners for the commune. Actually, if you were to spend the 100 kroners locally, and that 100 kroners gets spent on salaries, it gets spent fixing tractors, it gets spent in the hairdressers, although I don't know how much hair most farmers have these days, the amount of stress. But in the butchers, the bakers, it gets spent locally. So if you look at that model,
local multiplier 3 model.
The local multiplier 3 model, very good. 100 kroners is spent a second time, it's spent a third time. So 100 kroners is generally considered to be worth 200 kroners to the local community. If you then spend 95 kroners, but you spend it on imported food, that 95 kroners is probably only worth 5 to 10 kroners, because it's going to potentially a local delivery driver, and that's pretty much it. And so whilst from a commune they might be saving 5 kroners, actually the larger economic factor means that there's that amount of money that's not being regenerated and respent locally. So it's the prosperity of the community is different. But there's larger factors, which is that if you look at it from a carbon point of view, which is what most authorities are measuring now, is that they're saying, well, there's mileage associated to bringing food in. What they're not considering is, well, there's mileage associated to farmers not having a local market because the commune's not buying from them, so they're having to send it somewhere else. So you've actually got that level of that should be included in the calculation. Wear and tear on the roads, the increase in traffic, all of those types of things, generally not considered in those types of models. And if you were to measure environmental impact, then regenerative farming, and if you look at the environmental impact of all of the chemicals that are used in traditional farming versus regenerative and organic type farming, it's day and night. But those things also don't factor in those types of models.
No, so we're missing like the whole picture thinking about this then.
Yeah, but I think there's a number. For me, I find it quite interesting because there's a number of things that you look at. Food security is an obvious one, which is that if you, as a country, if you're reliant on food import like Norway is, well, if there's any issue around importing food, you are screwed. You haven't got the supplies. It's not like Norway's got 6 months worth of grain in stock. It doesn't have a reserve, and it's relying on food import. And it's not like the power networks where you can increase the amount of power in a relatively short period of time. It's growing food is seasonal. You can't just go, oh, let's magically 3D print some potatoes. It doesn't work that way.
No, I can't remember the number, but this cattle farmer told me that, like, for it to be able to increase the amount of cattle I have, was it 7 years or something?
Yeah, it's years it takes for cattle. Yeah. No, it's absolutely years. But even if you were to take potatoes, there's a very specific season for growing potatoes. So if you decide at some point that you want to increase your the amount of potatoes that you've got, that takes a bit of planning and buying seeds and planting them. It's a seasonal thing.
For not to mention toilet paper.
But so even if you can pick one element, you can pick a climate change and carbon and emissions and all of that type of stuff. You can pick food security, you could pick health, you could pick any of those things, and you look and you think whatever aspect of it you consider, the current model fundamentally doesn't work.
Yep.
And so I think it's not to say it's not working at all, because obviously people are eating. There's food in the supermarkets, people are eating. It's not working particularly efficiently, and it's not working for the people that need it to work the most: farmers and foodies. People that are eating.